And of course, we have Mrs. Majori Ezihe right here, a human rights activist. Today, we're talking about the state laws on human rights and its implementation, especially the VAP law, the one that was implemented on the 15th of December 2021. More like a lot of people are hearing the VAP, but they don't know what it's about, how it's written, or how it was even passed at all. So we want to know extensively, what is this bill about? What was it about? What are the laws that were stated inside this VAP bill?
Okay. The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, it's the VAP law. And the VAP came to Imo State as a concerted effort of civil society organizations and then state actors who pushed for the law. We have the person, the honorable member representing Njaba State constituency, Honorable Nju Onwodiwe, as a sponsor of this law. It was over a 2-year period and above. Interestingly, Imo State initially had the VAP law during the Richard Okorocha regime. But a lot of misunderstanding and discoloration was given to the VAP, and I don't know, out of politicking or trying to play selfish politics, it was thrown out. Because the VAP, it's a wholesome law. It's a framework that not only delineates infringements, it also puts responsibility for wrong investigation procedure on the investigating officer. It means that if I had an infringement as a citizen and I go report an incident to the police, the officer investigating the incident so reported, who is usually called the IPO, is bound by the VAP law, this legal framework, to not only do his professional best, but in the course of investigation, he infringes further on my rights, because a lot of ignorance exists in the space and it's taken for granted. And because of his action or inaction, this my report was treated in a wrong manner. He can be held liable directly. Before the VAP, what is obtainable is that you sue the commissioner of police. You know, the commissioner of police is not in the field. He's not the one who investigated your matter. Now, the VAP places responsibility directly with the
IPO.
Investigating officer, who is often the IPO. That's not just it. Now, it gives time frame under which the police should be done with investigation, and the matter should go to DPP for advice, and then the court. Beautiful. The VAP brings down the cost, the legal cost of prosecuting cases for citizens, and as well as ensuring that it doesn't drag. You know, court processes. Citizens are the apathy towards court processes because of the lengthy time it takes to do a case and complete it. You'll get a ruling from a matter. The VAP can, with the VAP framework, a case can be done and a ruling gotten in 3 months. That's beautiful. Now, going further, as a frontline responder to incidences of violence, of violations, that's what's called generally of rights. It could be of a sexual kind. It could be, that's when you're talking about rape. And then, of course, another forms of sexual manipulations, which are encapsulated in the VAP. Now, the VAP makes it so even beautiful, and not only elaborately defines or redefines what rape is, as against the existing legal framework of the criminal code, which only recognizes rape as an act between a man and a woman. Now, the VAP has broadened the definition to let us see, taking into consideration emerging trends in forms of crimes, that rape can be, a woman can be the perpetrator of rape It's not only men who get raped or who rape women. That it could be either way. It could be a man, it could be a woman. And that rape is not only when a male sex organ, so to speak, is inserted in a female organ forcefully without consent. It broadens the scope to let us know that it could be whether any object or organ inserted. The basic word there is without consent. And it also defines and broadens who a minor is. And the kinds of things, abuses, things we take for granted that you perpetrate on a minor, and you begin to have contravened a law, and it's a crime. It's criminal for you to do those things. So the verb is so nice. One of the best thing about the verb for me, it's the body autonomy. It transfers to the owners, to the human beings, because your body is yours, is your responsibility. So the verb says, all this attitude, it's common and prevalent in southeastern markets. When a young girl goes to the market, I know my daughters don't like going to the market. They prefer shopping at the mall.
I don't like going to the market
because the sellers, while trying to get your attention, they say, my doctor's prescription.
My color. You know them.
All those things are, it's an infringement on your rights. You didn't ask to be touched. You didn't, people react to separate things, different things in different ways. So the verb looked at this, and it's encapsulated that when you do this, it's not acceptable. You can go to jail for simply crossing somebody's body autonomy. And it goes on and on. You have harmful widowhood practices that's perpetrated all over the state. You have infringement on persons living with disability. You have a lot of things. It's as simple as a person who goes against a widow's will and shaves off her hair. The person can get jailed for as much as 6 months. Or pay a fine of over 200,000. And when people begin to communicate these laws, this framework, and people begin to understand that you're coming in the name of a culture or tradition to shave off somebody's hair, you might just land you in jail. I'm sure so many people will not want to be doing it or caught in jail because they went for a funeral and the tradition demands that you cut hair and you do a lot of. And then most importantly, this inheritance of not just vulnerable groups such as the widows, but girl children, female child. The verb criminalizes it specifically. So these are some of the things, as much as FGM, female genital mutilation, and all of those. These are some of the ways the verb criminalizes certain acts and actions that either though have not been encapsulated and captured in the existing legal framework.
Okay, so just before I go to Mary Jacob, for the very, very singular reason of people that don't like big grammar like me, but then somehow Mrs. Major she has been busting my brain. See,
and I thought I was keeping it safe. I was just kissing.
Yes, schools. Listen to me, right? You, as the perpetrator of this particular crime, you can enter problem. The police officer who you reported this to and didn't apply or treat it as urgent can enter problem too. Oh, this is very beautiful. Even if the police officer that you reported this abuse to treats it as something very, very reluctant or goes on about reluctantly about it, the time frame, even if you do the work well but in waste time, if he still collects. Everybody wahala everywhere. And now again, there is also the abuse, right? Abuse is majorly known to the layman outside as just hitting somebody. That is not the only abuse out there. You've heard her. She has mentioned a lot. There's the one with the widows. There's the one with disinheritance. You would not give a female child property because be man. You can actually go to jail for that.
Yes.
So it is a problem. And for those of you who do not know that there's a VAP bill in Imo State, this is out there to you. So for those of you who are just hearing it for the first time and you actually like what you're hearing, 081-128-87887. There's an expert in the house. You're not just going to be hearing Dara's voice. I know I'm a very unserious person and it's laugh and laugh, we laugh all here. But now from 1:30 to 2:30, you get extreme seriousness. 081-128-87887. So on to you, Mary Jacob. Can you highlight, or as the PG man will say, can you touch light the different angles at which abuse can come? Because the layman out there, the people in the marketplace, those are the target audience who are going for, not the ones who are very exposed, who know this. There are some people out in the streets who do not even know that there are different forms of abuse, not just hitting somebody. So, can you give us the honor of listing the different angles at which abuse can come up?
Okay, so abuse plenty. So it depends on from the angle we're speaking about. I was very excited when Miss Marjorie was talking about bodily autonomy, which is something I'm very particular about. When we talk about people's bodily autonomy, it's because I own my body. My body is mine. So any form or anything you do on my body without my consent, anything that you do that violates my own personal right, is an abuse. So this thing that you're doing might simply be speaking down on my body. You could just look at my body and say, I have stretch mark. You're abusing me, of course. It could go beyond the words. So it could go beyond. It could go beyond words. It could go to actions. And then, I know we have listeners from Owerri, and we were talking about not liking to go to the market. That's including things that happen in the market. And we know it's very popular in places like Douglas. It's almost impossible to go to Douglas and nobody will touch you. So that's a violation. That's an abuse as well. So if you're going to touch a woman, don't even touch her, even her wrist, even her hand, even her body. It's an abuse already. So if we're also going or a man, yeah, thank you. So anybody that you're touching without their consent, anybody that you're touching, anybody that you're speaking about their body and making them uncomfortable is an abuse already. And this also goes as far as going to children. So if you're looking at a child and you feel like, oh, because it's a child, you could say anything, you're abusing a child. And that goes beyond the VAP bill and the VAP law in Imo State as well. We have the Child Act law. And then if you're looking at these documents, you're also seeing that children have laws. And children have that are guiding them. So children are protected as well. So even if we're talking about you're abusing with words, you're abusing with actions, you're abusing with what you say and where you go to, and you think that it's just for adults, it's not. And then if we're going again for abuses happens in workspaces. So even if you're setting up your own kind of workspace, what kind of laws and regulations are you putting to protect the people that are working for you? You can perpetrate harm on your staff or your team simply by not putting the laws at stake that will protect them. So how much are we being intentional about conversations? How much are we looking at for people around us? And abuse also happens in homes. Abuse happens in homes. When we talk about bodily autonomy, when we talk about people's human rights, it does not end when you enter inside the house. It continues. So if you're going to make your spouse do anything against their rights, against their will, without their consent, you're already abusing them. So abuse goes like on and on and on, even in school spaces. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another thing. This VAP bill, is there any gender at all that it favors more than the other? I'm asking you, Miss Marjorie.
Okay, it's actually a law now.
Yeah, because
No.
It's a law
Okay,
now. Yeah.
Before it becomes a law, we can call it a bill. Now
Okay.
it's a law and we
Okay.
can no longer refer to it
As a bill.
Okay, so this VAP law, is there any gender at all that it favors more than the other?
I don't know about that, but I do know. What I do know is that the law is called Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, and the question you ask tend to come say because women for our cultural society don't they live under heavy burden of abuse over the years.
Yeah.
There's so many do's and don'ts. There was a time women could not aspire to read medicine, engineering. They were
Even
excluded in law. They were excluded from certain professions. Even up till now, when a place like yours will consider hiring tech persons or professionals, they will look to the male before they will consider a female applicant. So these things tend to make people who engage the law for negative purposes, I'll say, to try to give it a gender coloration. But it's a law, like I said, that it's for everybody's protection. And like Mary Jacob has enlightened us further, you have seen that there is no limitation to the spaces which abuse can happen. And oftentimes, it's ignorantly done. People don't even know. You know, when you're talking about people that are enlightened and this, no, it's not true. Oftentimes, they don't even know they are contravening a law.
Yeah.
They are abusing people. And there is a type that is not physical, that's not verbal, that is emotional and psychological.
VAP is not violence against women or violence against men or violence against whichever gender you choose to be associated with. It's violence against persons. So since this law was passed, or since this law was put or cast on stone, has it been implemented so far? Does it work? Are you telling the young people out there that if those market boys shout my color, hey, they even go as far as giving you names? I don't know if you've noticed before. They do you know, actually, they begin to guess names. So are you saying that in Imo State right now, you can walk into any police station and say, I have a report. I want to report this person who touched me against my will in the marketplace. Would you be seen as serious? Because I'm sure that I'm speaking for both myself and listeners out there. So they want to know.
Part of implementing is what Whisper Sabi,
Sabi Your Right.
Sabi Your Right is doing. Kudos to Mary Jacobs and her team again. Because if people don't know of the existence of the law, how then can they use it, activate it? Yeah, some of us here in the studio are getting to hear of this novel law. Implementation is not a one-off thing. It's a continuum that goes on. It's a law. It has come to stay. So implementation is as much as you, like you gave the illustration with, it's willing and able to approach a police officer, clearly defining what happened to you, whether it's a breach of your bodily autonomy, and demanding that you deserve justice on the platform of the verb. Because I tell you, if you approach a policeman who is unaware of the VAP legal framework, he's going to be confused. He's going to be perplexed, and he will just think you're being frivolous without understanding the dynamics of VAP has brought into the conversation. About implementation, as a frontline responder right now, we have a committee we call the Imo State Committee on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, and which is specifically for that purpose, for documenting and intervening directly on issues of violations as it affects women and girls directly. And our first case on the platform of the VAP is in court. It went to court on the 24th of May. Actually, we'll be in court again. That will be the third time we'll make an appearance to the case. Tomorrow we'll be in court in the morning. Yes. It's a very crazy case, so to speak. Is of a spiritual head, a pastor violating a member's wife right there sexually, right there in the member's house. And very sad thing to happen. But I give kudos to the woman who had the bravery to disclose what happened to her husband, and who was smart enough to invite the man of God, so to speak, in quotes, to their home and say how. Started a conversation and was able to record him saying he was the devil and all that, and gave us the premise to go to court. So you see, but if it was under the criminal code that this matter was taken to court, the onus lies on the woman, on the victim, to prove rape. And in the penal code, which is operational in the northern states of Nigeria, even you need witnesses to the act of rape to be able to prove rape. And to a large extent, that's what holds sway here. So the VAP and implementing the VAP, knowledge share, it's quite key, and this is what Whisper is doing. So the more people know that as a rape victim or as somebody who has been subjected to some form of bodily exactly, or somebody who's been battered, even within the confines of a relationship, can address or can seek redress through the platform or framework of the VAP, you see more people begin to apply to courts using the legal framework of the VAP. We are putting it out there, but this is quite good. And I know that Whisper to Humanity has done a lot already in dispensation of information to citizens on the VAP. They've broken the VAP to a language that is accessible and easily assimilated by the common man. And they are doing a work also in breaking it down in pidgin, and I know that there is a projection for the Igbo, and there is whispers in colors for children to be able to redress, and knowing your right is a first step actually in making sure that you can be able to seek redress in courts when you have had an infringement. So yes, it's a holistic thing. It doesn't have a start date and an end date. It's something that is a continuum, and then we're here for as long as God is giving us breath and life. This is what we do, and we'll keep propagating it. And if there is any reason for me to do cases, which is what I do, give voices to people, and I see things as simple as parents not knowing when they impose their will on their children forcefully that it is an infringement every day. I saw cases yesterday. I'm seeing one. I've been in a police station early this morning at the state CID. So it's a continuum. I'm going to live here and I'm going to go there. So you see all sorts and you're like, wow. And then you talk to them. It's like, are you serious? Is this possible? So the knowledge share, it's part of implementing the VAP before we get to the court. And that's kudos once more time. I can't say that enough already for Whisper to Humanity.
Okay. So just before I go to my next question, there was something that caught my attention while you were talking. You said something about going to a policeman who doesn't even know about this VAP law. So are there excuses as to why a policeman doesn't know about the VAP law? Or should a policeman know about the VAP law? Because, wait, I know why they ask. And they ask because if you abuse me, like people have told me now, before I say I only beat him, but thank God, say now, I don't hear say if you drag me for market, you will collect. I'm just saying it out there. So what if at that point, the only accessible police station to me, I go there and the police officers on duty don't even know that there is a VAP law? Should there be excuses as to why a police officer doesn't know about the VAP law?
No, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But it's better that the person whose rights is being infringed knows under what legal framework he or she can seek redress. Because oftentimes, yes, you find out that policemen who do not know are the ones charging cases and tagging them and naming them. I've had issues where a case of defilement of a minor, which is rape in the other sense of a minor, but it's called defilement in the VAP, and it's recorded in the charge sheet. The policeman wrote assault. It connotes a different thing, right?
Yes.
Whether you say sexual assault, it could be that in the process you were just beaten in one of your sexual parts. It doesn't communicate that a sexual assault of the magnitude of rape is what happened to you. So when persons like me who are frontline responders look at a charge sheet, we can say no. This has to be redone all over again because this is not the crime that was perpetrated against this victim. And that's why what Whisper is doing is awesome. Like I say, it's a first step of an implementation because you cannot implement what you don't know. Now a law has been passed. The police hierarchy, the big bosses, it's their responsibility to tickle it down to every policeman and woman. So like you said, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. But beautifully, I know that the administration of criminal justice system in Nigeria, it's a law that is operational in Imo State, AJA. Now, what AJA has done for the legal framework is totally exclude police officers who are not lawyers from charging and filing cases. So when you do a case in the police station, after the normal IPO has done, it will be sent to the legal department. There is a legal office in every police station. And the state CID has a whole unit that is just police officers who are lawyers. Every morning you see them where since they are in court. So it's their duty to now profile that case and give it the proper tagging under the relevant laws. But I tell you, as regards to the VAP law, less than 3 to 5% of our policemen in Imo State are aware of this.
Less than.
Every time I'm interacting. The other day last week I was in Olu. I was in Olu, and the conversation was harmful widowhood practices that are sustained since 2007 till date. And then I said to the officer, there is a framework that will make it very easy for you to do your work. Let me share the gazetted copy with you. And I just do that. And a lot of us do that. And we also make presentations of the hard copy to DPOs, because there's some outstanding DPOs. And I tell you, the number of policemen on the streets are not enough to take care of the challenges that we have as citizens in Imo. And there are a lot of unpoliced spaces right now as we speak in Imo, and that is an opportunity for criminals to run riot. And that's why this is very key, because the more people who are aware, the more protective measures or mechanisms you can begin to deploy for your safety and that of others around you, because knowledge is power, we say. When a parent knows that, for instance, if you forcing your daughter or your son to go through one particular career line, it's criminal and it's a crime, I think they will not do it quickly. If a teacher knows that a certain way of teaching, knowledge impartation, it's a crime, and you are bridging or abusing somebody's autonomy while doing it. It's like coming and you line up students and you say, I want to do inspection, and you begin to touch them. That's wrong. It's a violation of a sexual kind.
And all this
teachers
is in the VAP law?
Yes, it's in the VAP law.
Yes,
so teachers are not allowed to do that.
All right.
So when schools are, in fact, proprietors of schools and the Ministry of Education, everybody should be involved in seeing that the VAP law is disseminated, because it's a way to order our activities in a society.
Wow. Okay, you're hearing, and I can hear it as well. This is the Sabi Your Right segment right here on the Tripod and Heritage 88.7 FM, which will be holding every Thursday from 1:30 down to 2:30 p.m., where we have the team members from the Whisper to Humanity youth-led feminist organization. So don't let the word feminist discourage you. It has nothing to do with just women, okay, as you can hear. So, Miss Major, when you were listing what the VAP law contains, you said there was a redefinition about who a minor is. Can you put it out there?
According to the VAP law, everybody from 0 to 14 years is a minor. As it exists now, even though we were pushing for it to be everybody from 0 to 18 years, under 18 years is a minor. But what we got in the gazetted copy that was signed into law is that everybody from 0 to 14 years is a minor. So everybody from upward of 15 and above, of course, has been tagged an adult. So that's the reality of the legal framework on ground, as pertaining delineation between who an adult and a minor is. But then we do know that the persons under 18 cannot be said to be responsible for certain actions, because in the larger framework of the Constitution and the Criminal Code, it is said that the persons under 18 cannot give consent for acts and actions. They can only give assent. So typically, if I'm documenting a victim who is under 18, I will need a guardian or somebody present, as opposed to my documenting anybody from 18 and above. I just need to have a conversation with that person. And then if I'm documenting a child as encapsulated by the VAP, I just don't need to have my colleagues in the front line present. I need to have somebody in the Child Protection Network who speaks directly to the Child Rights Act or law to be there, so that you can redefine or lead us aright if we begin to go out astray. So these are how.
Okay, so just before we end today's edition of the Sabi Your Right segment on the Tripod, You know that the Whisper to Humanity Foundation has a physical office right here in Owerri. So just in case you were saying, which policeman where I go now, where sabi the law, make I no go the one where no sabi am. So I would want to give the floor or the mic to Mary Jacob, who is the founder of Whisper to Humanity, to give you details on how you can be able, if you are a rape survivor, we don't like to call them rape victims because they are not victims actually.
No, but that is something I disagree totally with, and I like to put it out there.
Okay.
A person is not a survivor until that person has moved from the environment that primarily made them victims.
Okay.
That made them vulnerable. You don't tell me somebody is a survivor. It's a terminology that exists and is applicable in the Western world. Here, the reality is a person is a victim, and until you remove that person in the immediate circumstances and environment that made that person vulnerable initially, ab initio, you have not survived anything.
Okay.
You're just reticulating the damage and the victimization.
Okay, so abuse victims or people who have been abused, whether in the past or presently you're going through something, but then you just don't know who to send it to now. You know this. The VAP law covers you in total entirety. So Mary Jacob, how do people reach you? Is there a number? Is there an address you get to drop so they can reach you to be the frontliner for cases like this?
Social media, everything.
Yeah, of course. So if you're in Owerri, Whisper is in Owerri, of course. And our guest rightly mentioned earlier that we have a committee in Imo State that is working and sitting on this. So of course, reaching out to us, coming to our space is not the wrong place to come to. Then you can reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Just search for Whisper to Humanity, and we reply in less than an hour when you drop a message. Also, you could use the Whisper app. We have the Whisper Safety app, which we are making available, the simplified versions of that law in Imo State. We're trying to make it available on the app. So if you're using the Whisper app, it's also very easy for you to have access to it. It's also easy for you to speak to a lawyer, and also easy for you to drop a message for us and we can get it to the right authorities. And yes, it's, if you're also in Owerri or you're watching us live, it's also an amazing way to keep joining us live every Thursday, 1:30 to 2:30, and we're going to keep unveiling some of this. We're going to keep sharing knowledge, and we're going to keep having experts in the room.
Okay, thank you very much.
We're going to keep having this beautiful t-shirts that we're going down.
I know it's
I can't wait to wear mine.
Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. You just heard the voice of Mary Jacob, the founder of the Whisper to Humanity youth-led feminist organization, and she came alongside a civil society organization expert, Miss Marjorie, and they have just informed you. If you enjoyed today's edition, make sure that next week Thursday from 1:30 p.m. nothing stops you from tuning in again. This is Sabi Your Right here on the Tripod on Heritage 88.7 FM. Thank you for chilling with us. We'll do this same time, same station tomorrow. You know how we roll. Mastercraft on the beat.
Chineke na-emego kwa nwa ogbenye nsege